What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Thursday Slate Preview NBA video here on the YouTube page for Fantasy Cruncher. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and then if you want to win a free week of Fantasy Cruncher Pro, leave your Fantasy Cruncher username with the highest owned player that busts. So who do you think the highest owned player that busts doesn't hit their value on this 3-game slate? There's always a guy that's popular that doesn't make their value, so leave that in the comments section below, and we'll enter you in a drawing for a free week of Fantasy Cruncher Pro. Only 3 games, so this won't take a ton of time, but I wanted to get you out a video either way. Talk about some options. We got the Wizards and the Cavs. The Wizards are coming off of an overtime loss in Miami, now flying up to Cleveland. The Wizards are interesting. Imahimi, once again, talked about him yesterday, played big minutes again against Miami. Against Tristan Thompson, he could be in line for some big minutes again. 5,100, I think he's an interesting pivot at center. I think a lot of people will go to Tristan Thompson. The Wizards have been pretty good against centers since Imahimi took over all those minutes. I think I mentioned it yesterday on the video, but once again, Bam really didn't do a whole lot. So Tristan Thompson's a guy that I'm looking to stay away from that I think will actually be pretty popular on this slate. This slate doesn't really have a traditional center on it other than Whiteside. So I definitely think Tristan Thompson will draw some ownership, and he's a guy I'm staying away from. Bradley Beal, 7,500, definitely too cheap, but is coming off a boatload of minutes, back-to-back, easy team. Could be a spot where they try to manage the minutes a little bit. He does have those recurring knee stress issues. So it could be a spot where he plays closer to 32 than 36 minutes, but 7,500. Still really too cheap. Kevin Love at 7,000 against the Wizards. One of the top options on the slate. Sexton, I think, is a good option. Garland, I think, is a good option. Osman, I think, at 4,400 is a steal. So I'm looking towards these Cleveland guys. I know they've been playing some more guys off the bench, but they have let their starters get some big run. And I think they'll do that here. They're in development mode. They're not going to win this year. So I'm looking to Cleveland pretty heavily on this 3-game slate, especially for value. There's definitely guys in the later games I want to play that are very expensive. So, going here for Cleveland value in Garland and Osman definitely does let me help pay up for some of those guys in the later games that I do want to be paying up for. So I think this is the best spot for value. You can try to play roulette with the Wizards guys. I do think it's a good pace-up game to try attack some value guys here. Davis Bertans, 4,500, had a big game. Got his minutes back. He could do that again as well. He's an option. Could be Thomas Bryant off the bench. He didn't play a ton of minutes, but maybe he plays a few more on the back-to-back, and Mahinmi plays a few less, and he crushes at 4,500. So I think there's a bunch of options here off the bench. You just got to find the right guy. Isaiah Thomas, he has been bad, and even he got to value. He played one of his better games in a while. So there's definitely options here for the Wizards if you're trying to play some roulette for value, but the best plays, I think, are Osman, Davis Bertans, Kevin Love, Sexton, and then Bradley Beal, obviously, is Bradley Beal. Okay, let's move on to the next game, Lakers at Brooklyn. So this is a no-travel back-to-back. They were in New York last night. So tonight, as I recorded, Wednesday night. They were in New York. So this is a no-travel back-to-back. It's a great spot for Anthony Davis, 10-5. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to fit him because just due to the stars in the next game, but he's an option for sure. Kyrie, big game, 8,700 if he plays. I would have a lot of confidence in him. He likes to show up against the best players, and LeBron and Anthony Davis are that. Jared Allen's a good option with DeAndre Jordan doubtful. 5,700 is pretty cheap. We saw Cantor, similar type build player, really have a good performance against the Lakers the other night. So definitely could be a good spot for Brooklyn in the Brooklyn front court. Don't mind Prince, don't mind Harris, but with Kyrie back, they're not the locks that they were before. Claxton's out, so there is some free minutes for some bench guys, but I'm not going to go super crazy. Lakers side, Anthony Davis and LeBron, when they both play, just eat up a ton of the usage. Don't mind if you want to go with like a McGee or a Dwight against Jared Allen. Jared Allen's not that great, but you gotta get that 2-point fantasy point per minute game out of McGee, and it happens every once in a while, but certainly not something that you can just count on. You can see he has those games where he puts up 2 fantasy points per minute, but can't count on it. But this is a nice spot for McGee for 4,900. I'm not crazy about it, but I certainly would understand it. Danny Green, Rajon Rondo, they've got upside if they play minutes, but the Lakers kind of just play the hot hand out there on the wings besides LeBron and Anthony Davis. So, you kind of have to get lucky there. But again, 3-game slate, right? So you're going to have to get lucky on some value plays. So I don't mind that if you want to just play those options, but they're certainly not core plays or anything like that. I think that's it. Don't really think there's anything other special. Let's move on to the third and final game. This is the most important game of the night. It's Dallas. It's Oklahoma City. Lillard and Whiteside are priced back up to where they should be. I'm not fading them at this price point. I think Damian Lillard's a fantastic option if McCollum's out. And I'm ruling McCollum out. I'm assuming that he's out. If he plays, then I kind of think all these guys are kind of priced appropriately. Like Whiteside's a 10K player, even with McCollum. Without McCollum, I think he's even higher than that, just with what he can do inside. Dallas is without Powell. Looks like he tore his Achilles. So they're a big man short. So I definitely don't mind going to Whiteside or Lillard. But if McCollum's out, they're core plays for me. Doncic at 11-2. I love in this spot. He's my favorite of the studs. The Portland defense has been quite terrible since they basically have to play their starters 36 minutes. It's tough. Like anyone planning to play 36 minutes a night is going to really struggle on the defensive end. Luka can exploit that for sure. So when Powell got hurt, Boban was the biggest beneficiary. He played 16 minutes, put up 27 points. And then they called Joakim Noah. And so that makes me think they really don't want to play Boban big minutes. And against Portland, when Whiteside's off the floor, you really don't need a center. So look for both teams to just play small with the backup 5. So I think it's a really good spot for Maxi Kleber to pick up minutes and play some backup 5. Played 32 minutes off the bench. Think you could see that again today. Think you could see some backup 5, which would definitely help his rebounding opportunities. So I don't mind Kleber, even at that elevated price of $4,800. Dorian Finney-Smith's another guy that could play small ball center. He just does absolutely no usage rate. He's like PJ Tucker, except PJ Tucker probably doesn't have higher usage than him. So Seth Curry, if they go small, could benefit. So there's a bunch of guys here in Dallas that could benefit. They just don't really have the big guy to come off the bench. Like it could be Justin Jackson, but he just really hasn't done anything. So I can't even recommend playing him on a 3-game slate. For Portland, Trevor Ariza will be in the rotation, but who knows? Looks like he's going to start, actually. Wow. Interesting. So he's going to start over Simons. Huh. Got to admit, that's interesting. That means he could play 30 minutes. I'm no Trevor Ariza fan, but anyone on a 3-game slate is going to play 30 minutes. I mean, even if he's at 0.7 fantasy points per minute, let's just say that holds over. 30 minutes is like 21. 21 fantasy points for 4K is not terrible. It's not great, but on a 3-game slate, if he just gets hot, you could definitely do it for you. Interesting. So Simons is going to come off the bench. Or maybe he'll start and they'll put Trent off the bench. Either way, I think this is a death blow to Nasir Little's minutes. He's been getting about 14 to 20 minutes. I think those minutes are done. And I also don't think it's probably the end of the road for Jalen Horde, too. I don't think he'll get minutes with Trevor Ariza. So those are probably 24 minutes he can eat up right there. Then all he needs to do is steal 6 between Trent and Simons, and I think that's totally doable. So, I think that's an interesting value option. He'll be really popular. If he starts getting into the 65-70% own range, I think you could fade him at that point because he could just stand in a corner. He's only had 2 practices with this team, so it's not like he's been there for months. So I definitely could see that being an option for a fade. But right now, I would lean towards just playing him and then, adjusting off of that if needed. Simon's not a bad play at 4K either. Neither is Trent. Just got to, lower those minutes just a little bit with Trevor Ariza arriving. But, against Dallas, they definitely could go off on a 3-game slate. So I don't want to completely ignore them because they're not the sexy value anymore. But they definitely are value options that could be good. This is all assuming McCollum's out, too. If McCollum's out, then I don't know where the minutes come for any of these guys. So we'll have to see about McCollum. I would imagine he misses one more game, but we'll have to see. Carmelo's 62, just really tough for him to hit a ceiling there. So not super excited about it. Let me just see if I didn't. Just want to make sure I didn't miss a Dallas play. Talked about Justin Jackson. Talked about Seth Curry. Talked about Dorian Finney-Smith. Talked about Kleba. Tim Hardaway Jr. is a hit or miss option. I don't mind him at 5,500. And then Chris Stapps showed rust. He's an option at 8,400, but I'm just not going to get to him over some of the other guys we've talked about. So, yeah, I think that's kind of it. So, again, this is only a 3-game slate, so not a ton of options to choose from. The top studs for me is Luka and Lillard, assuming that McCollum is out. Don't mind Kyrie either. Obviously, Whiteside, Lillard, also fantastic options. I think I just mentioned them, but I do want to emphasize that if McCollum's out, those are the best options. Value-wise, I talked about how I really don't like Tristan Thompson that much. I would rather go ahead and play a Kevin Love, a Garland, a Sexton, a Bertans, a Cedi Osman, a Trevor Ariza, then played chalk Tristan Thompson here. Looks like John Henson's going to be back too, so that should eat into some of the minutes. So I really like a Tristan Thompson fade. If you had to ask me who my fade on the slate would be right now, it would be Tristan Thompson. So, all right, really appreciate you guys tuning in for this short video on the 3-game slate. We'll be back tomorrow with a longer video, of course, for that nice big Friday slate. But do me a favor, please subscribe, like, and then if you got some time, leave in the comments section with your Fantasy Cruncher username the player you think busts on this slate, and you'll be entered in a drawing to win a free week of Fantasy Cruncher Pro. I'm CJ, and we'll see you next time.